to the world. Subscribe now to the Hot 97 YouTube channel. It's Ebro in the Morning with Laura Stiles and Rosenberg.
Ebro, Laura, Rosenberg. What's happening? Good morning. We got the brother Eric Adams, currently Brooklyn Borough President, on the program. Give it up for him. Give it up. Give it up.
He's also officially running for mayor of New York City.
Well, I was going to say that next. So your current job, Brooklyn Borough President, you've been holding that for how long?
This is my 8th year in now. You know, this is 2 terms. We do 2 terms, 4 years apiece.
And what you saw on television last night in D.C., you've also been in part of the NYPD. You've ran security detail before. You've, I'm sure dealt with activists, protests, terrorist incidents. You've dealt with a lot. What did you see, and why was it so easy for people to get inside what should be one of the harder buildings to get inside of?
You know, great point. And, you know, brother, this is why I continually go back to why we need to be in law enforcement and recruit young people to be part of this game of law enforcement and not discourage them to do so. Number one, to properly look at this and break it down to what happened yesterday. You saw a complete participation with the law enforcement, the Capitol Police, others in the area that allowed an attempted coup on the Capitol. And I believe the federal government, the congressional delegation of New York, we're sending them a letter today. They should conduct a thorough investigation because there was a moment, 2 things that stood out for me. One, there was a moment that the police basically opened the gate and allowed the rioters to come inside. That right away sent a signal to me. The second, in order to raise the Trump flag on the Capitol, you need to have inside information how to utilize the machinery to get on top of the building like that. So the question becomes, who gave them that inside information? And with technology now, we can identify everyone who was there. There should be mass arrests of everyone who went inside the Capitol building, destroyed property, not just 50 people. We saw what happened with the Black Lives Matters march. We need to find out what role the Capitol Police or other Trump staffers played in allowing the attempted coup of the United States Capitol.
Now, if it doesn't, because I don't suspect that anything will come of this, I can't continue to hold elected officials in high regard when it comes to arresting white people and something actually happened, because I continue to be disappointed.
It's hard to blame. It's kind of hard to blame Ebro for that, Eric. No.
No. Listen, I'm dead on, brother. I cannot tell you the number of times you will look at one set of scenarios, and if it's a black or brown person, you see a heavy-handed approach. When you see a white person committing the same crime, you see a more lenient approach. And so your concern, I think, is valid and real. Now, we just had an unprecedented situation took place in Georgia. Other people are trying to take credit for it, but it was a black woman who ran for governor that built out the infrastructure to allow the election of 2 Democratic state senators. Now the Senate is going to be in Democrat control. We have the Congress in Democrat control. We have a Democratic president. If they don't send down some clear orders, a new attorney general was announced. If they don't send down clear orders to conduct a thorough investigation to determine the criminality of happened yesterday, that would be treason on our country. We must have a criminal investigation to identify the Capitol. I'm sure they have facial recognition. We can identify all those looters, particularly those who went in the building, destroyed property. They need to be identified and they need to be arrested.
Well, and even me listening to you talk right now, and I agree with you, but I continue to feel like the reason this country continues to slip and become the laughing stock of the world is because nothing will come of this that is substantial. If Donald Trump was able to create this energy without any recourse, there's nothing stopping it from happening again.
And I agree. And really, brother, we should look across the country. We had an attempted kidnapping of a governor.
Yep. Whitmer in Michigan.
Exactly. This far right has reached a total of utter arrogance. And I received calls from retired law enforcement associates that I've known that served here in the city, and now they're living in other countries. They said, Eric, the armament that is taking place, the purchasing of guns, of assault weapons. I don't know if there has ever been a time in our history where we have had the largest level of real gunpowder power in the hands of a civilian population at this magnitude. We're not talking about just mustards. We're talking about assault rifles, assault guns, and Trump really rallied them up. What you saw yesterday, I'm really fearful it's only the beginning of what we could witness in this country in small pockets area if we don't take this serious.
Well, also yesterday could have been way worse if we're honest about it.
Yes.
Once those people got inside, they weren't going through metal detectors to get inside. So, Eric, anything was possible. My question is, if you were running that from a police standpoint, when they started to actually breach the Capitol, whether they were let in by other officers or not, once you're aware of that, at what point do the rubber bullets come out and you say we keep these people out no matter what? Because they could have had guns and gotten in and started taking hostages, no?
Great assessment. Now think about this for a moment. We're talking about the U.S. Capitol. We knew, based on intel, that there was going to be a disturbance when the attempt was going to be made to ensure that the president was put in his place when the counts were carried out. We knew this beforehand. If we had that intel, why didn't we fortify the area? Why didn't we ensure Capitol Police had the necessary manpower and necessary deployment? The intelligence was already out there.
For sure.
And if our country
Eric,
is
not to mess up your flow. It was on Twitter, bro.
Yeah.
right.
It was on Twitter.
Exactly. So that is why right now you need a thorough investigation by now a Democratic-controlled Justice Department to look at all the police records, communications, look at Twitter, text messages. You need to subpoena all the documents that is associated with what did we know and what did we do when we knew it. How were you unprepared at the Capitol? That is supposed to be one of the most fortified buildings in our country.
I maintain that the people in law enforcement, whether it be here in New York or there at the Capitol building, there are too many individuals on those jobs who are fans, apostles, followers, whatever you want to call them, of Donald J. Trump and all of this rhetoric. And it is tied to white supremacy and racism. These people that were in the Capitol yesterday or at the Capitol and were let in, climbed the wall, whatever, they're mad that black votes matter. And there was not a white person they could find to overturn the black votes in Atlanta, Philly, Detroit, Milwaukee. They couldn't find them. They're allies. Where are our white supremacist allies to make sure that these Negroes stay in their place?
And let me tell you something, brother. If you go back and you look at I think it was the Good Old Boys Roundup. I'm trying to remember when it took place. It was an event run by agents of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms in Southern Tennessee. People failed to connect the dots between those in the military, those in federal law enforcement, and other law enforcement across the countries that is connected with white supremacy. And of course, we're not saying everyone, but let's be clear. Remember how many sheriffs in the Deep South in the 50s and in the early 60s were connected to the Klansmen. If you don't dig in deep and see the connectivity between how your law enforcement has always played the role in the white supremacy mindset in this country, then we're making a big mistake. And that is why I am urging my New York delegation to lead the way. NATLA is in charge of one of the important committees there. We have folks who are on Homeland Security. We need to address this at the level that it deserves. This was an attempted coup when you go into the office of our lawmakers and the level that we saw, and we need to treat it like that.
You're currently running for mayor of New York City. We appreciate you coming back on the program. First of all, we appreciate you for making the announcement here on the program.
Without a doubt.
As things stand right now, the primary is when?
It's in June. It's June 23rd, I believe it is. I'm so focused day to day, but it's in June. It's a shortened calendar. Historically, the primary was in September, but that has changed. And those 90 days are extremely significant, and that's why it's imperative that we get the information out to people to participate in this upcoming election.
The New York or the NYPD Sergeants Benevolent Association, I believe, endorsed a president last year for the first time in their history, which was Donald Trump. You as a former officer and someone running for mayor, how do you reconcile that now, moving forward? For us as citizens of the city, and then what we saw yesterday in the Capitol, the antics that we've seen from Donald Trump throughout. How does a law enforcement agency, and this is why it was funny to me what happened yesterday, is because everybody stood by like these shenanigans weren't going to lead to some violence. A woman was shot yesterday.
Right.
Killed.
Right.
Killed. And
Right.
and everyone is just okay with his rhetoric. Everyone's okay with the shenanigans. People have been dying at protests. There's good people on both sides. There's yada this and that. Oh, children in cages at the border. Mexicans are rapists and drug dealers. Muslim bans. And a union of police officers here in this city, after all of that, endorsed him for president. You become mayor. How do you unpack this?
Well, there are several things we could do, brother. You're right. And I say this over and over again. I don't downplay the moment we are in. And I believe because we've lived in a country where we basically had a level of some form of stability in comparison to other international countries and climates. This is a serious moment. And if we don't regain control of our public safety apparatus, particularly our police departments, and if our federal government fails to gain control of the federal agencies, we can find ourselves in a very dangerous, tenuous position. And that's what the next mayor must do. The next mayor must completely understand the complexities of law enforcement and how to do real reform that changes the ecosystem of public safety in the city. Make sure the right supervision, the right commissioner, and the right mission, because the mission has been more heavy-handed, reactive, and not proactive. The lack of partnership with CMS teams, the lack of diversity in the supervisory ranks, and coming up with the lack of real, what I believe, reform on how we move our police department into the 21st century, deeper into the 21st century.
One of the reasons I like you as a candidate as mayor is because I do believe, because of your experience, the things you just articulated, I trust that you are strong enough to attempt to go on that journey. Success on that journey obviously will be determined by you getting the job of mayor and getting us there, because as you know and have seen in the past, you'll be only the second black mayor in the history of the city. And we saw what happened to the first black mayor with the help of people like Rudy Giuliani when they were calling him the N-word and protesting outside of City Hall. The police, the off-duty police. So
and well said. Let me tell you something. What's extremely important, because what you're saying is extremely important. If you're going to be a leader, you have to lead both physically and both with your presence. And David Dinkins, Mayor Dinkins, who transitioned, was my role model, my mentor, and I love him. And I think that he did great things for the city that he never received credit for. And he was dealing with a very hostile media that never got over the fact we had a black man in the city at the same time. I think that when you look over my life, from being arrested and beat by police officers, then going into the police department, starting 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care, not only policing marches to make sure things were done right, but marching for Louima Diallo. Johnny Cochran wasn't someone I read about. He was my friend. Abner Louima I spoke with yesterday, and these are people that I know intimately. But moving up through the ranks, learning police officer special assignment, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and fighting for reform, knowing the agency. So I know the agency, but most importantly, the agency goddamn knows me. And they know I didn't take it when I was in the department, so I'm damn sure not going to take it when I go from being abused by cops to becoming the mayor that is in charge of that same police department. We get it right in the NYPD, it's going to cascade throughout the entire country, and we can get it right. I know we can get it right. It's a much better product than we're seeing. Public safety, brother, you know and I know, is a prerequisite to prosperity, so we must be safe, but we can have safety and justice at the same time.
Well, the other thing is, I think a lot of the candidates look, I like Andrew Yang, but I don't think he actually is from real New York. I think he's smart, and I know he grew up in Manhattan. But for those of us that have been in New York, you know Manhattan ain't real New York.
That's right, brother. That's right. But let me ask you something, and I always ask people this, and this is powerful. Go into your lineage. You're successful now. You're successful radio, commentary, and so many other areas. All of us are, I'm doing well with my life. But go into your lineage. And I bet you and everyone else in our lineage, somewhere there's a blue-collar person. There's someone that their hands were dirty all the time. They struggled all the time. They took $1, put food on the table for today, and then they invested into the future. That blue-collar person was my mom. I am who I am because she was on her knees cleaning the toilets of other people. And I learned from her. And so the Andrew Yangs and so many other that come with this white-collar mindset, no, I have a blue-collar mindset. We need to take every dollar the taxpayer has and has given to this city and treat it like the dollar that must place food on the table now for our communities, the city, and invest in our future. It's that struggle, hardcore, understanding how difficult it is. Brother, we have not had a blue-collar mayor in over 70 years. We have all these white-collar mayors that have been spending our money like it doesn't have any relevance or significance. We had a $20 billion jump in our budget in the last 7 years with nothing to show for it. So that's the attitude I'm bringing. I'm bringing that common sense, blue-collar mindset to run this city. It's not about just dollars and cents. It's about common sense, and that is what I'm going to do as the mayor. Common sense mayor that understands the intricacies of the dysfunctionality of this city. And those dysfunctionalities, you see the inefficiencies, and it leads to the inequalities, and in many cases, the injustices we have in this city. We're much better than what we're seeing.
What would you say, Eric, to the New York voter who likes you but is concerned you're too close to the police because they have their issues with NYPD?
And you know what? And I can understand that. If people would say some cop will come along and say, "Hey, I want to run for police. I'm to run to be the mayor of the city," you should be alarmed. But when you go back and Google every year, every month, just about every week for 22 years, you saw someone who fought hard to reform the police department on so many levels. It's clear that if you want someone to come into City Hall and know how to turn around the police department, you want someone that, number one, was an advocate, stood side by side with those who fought for reform and went up through the ranks, so you understand the intricacies of it, and then you could put in place those real changes. Right now, the current mayor is having a challenge to do so because he doesn't understand the apparatus of the police department. A sophisticated, complex place that they will run rings around you and wait you out and do whatever they want. You'll never have police officers turn their backs on Eric Adams as mayor. You will never have a police department where you see rioting, what police officers did under Mayor Dinkins. They know, and I know how to run that department in the manner that it ought to be run in the right place. And so those who are unsure, they need to sit down one day, get to their computer, and just start Googling Eric Adams and do it year by year from 1984 all the way to 2005. And they're going to walk away from that computer saying, this is my man. This is the brother we need to be in as the mayor of the city of New York.
Okay.
He's going hard for the job.
I like
His
it.
name is Eric Adams.
I like it.
I'm sure we'll have him on several times before
Yes.
The primaries. Anything we didn't cover today that you want to make sure you get out to the people on your journey to solidify this job as mayor?
Yes, I really encourage people to go online, look at my site, and look at the 100 plus policy proposals that I'm going to put in place on how to effectively run our city. It's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to show it in writings. I put it out there, and I challenge all other individuals who are running. Look at the 100 plus policies that I'm going to implement as the mayor as I reform this city. And then look at all the other candidates. Look closely at their hands. Look and see who have calluses on their hands, who have chipped up nails, who has been a union member, who knows what it is to get up every morning, pull the gate up in front of your shop, sweep up in front and go inside and put in 12, 13 hours and eke out a living. I didn't go to Harvard and Yale, brothers. I went to jail as a child, but I also went to school at night, 2 classes at a time to get my associates, my bachelor's, my master's, studied to become a sergeant, a lieutenant, and a captain, paid my son way to school, eking it out, struggling. I know what it is to jump the turnstile because you didn't have enough to buy a token. I know what it is to be unsure if you could pay your rent and miss some rent payments. I know New Yorkers, but most importantly, New Yorkers know me.
Eric Adams.
That's it.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you, Eric.
on the program, man.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Take care.
Peace.
All right, man.
Later, man.